Hello, my friends. It's good to have you with me today. This is Mike Holt, and today I would like to show you on an imaginary trip what it's like to drive through Yellowstone. Maybe you've never been to Yellowstone, or maybe it's been a while since you've been there. But let me tell you, when Yellowstone starts calling to you and you can't get it out of your mind, it's time to make a plan, because you will never, ever regret going to this wonderful, majestic place called Yellowstone. First up is a little bird we call a dipper. He literally dives into the water, comes out of the water, just eats little bugs that he can see. I tried many years to get a good picture of him. As you can see, he's very quick, and he darts in and comes out and doesn't exactly sit still for you. I will never get over seeing a majestic elk, big bull elk with his full rack of antlers, and I would not think in a million years of doing harm to these beautiful creatures. The last few years we've had some very good moose sightings. The bull moose don't seem to have the huge racks that Alaskan moose have. They're very, very big, and and this is well worth taking note of. Don't get too close to a moose. Next up, we have the coyotes. You can usually see them one drive through the park, and it's almost impossible not to see them. They scout around looking for anything they can find. And here's one that we did not know what his quest was. Why was he trudging along in that deep snow? And in a few seconds here, you're going to see him actually go in freezing cold water get to the other side. But what is he looking for? What is his purpose? He's on a mission here, and you'll see what it is. Now, as you can see, he found his way to the other side. He doesn't look worse for wear. He doesn't look like he's cold or shivering or anything. I think you're going to see him shake out here in just a few seconds. There he goes. And now he's sniffing out his trail and following the same path that he used before, obviously. I can see other tracks there, so this is what he's after. He has a big buffalo carcass all to himself here. And you'll see he's wary. He's looking around every which direction to make sure the coast is clear. Not until he's satisfied that there are no intruders around, like a pack of wolves, for example, or other coyotes that he doesn't get along with, will he go and start eating the carcass. Next up is one of my favorite movies of all time, although I was 2 miles away from this pack of wolves, and we never could really decide whether it was the Junction Pack or the Lamars. But they were 2 miles away, and it's kind of hard to see their colors. And they were sleeping for the most part. But these two wolves got up and wanted to play. And finally they found, I think it looks like a gray wolf, and the black wolf found him, and he seemed to be receptive to some good horsing around and roughhousing, and they seem to be having a good time. You can tell they're really not being aggressive with each other or fighting with each other, and you can tell that by their tails wagging just like any other dog would. And I had it enlarged so you could see it better. This was 2 miles away, like I said, and it looked to me like they were on top of the moon. They got up there so they could have a bird's eye view of all their surroundings, and they slept for many hours, but occasionally they would get up and play. Next up is 926. My friends and I call her Black Princess. She's the daughter of the legendary 06, and National Geographic called her mother She-Wolf. And here we have an amazing pair. This is, again, 926, which we call Black Princess, with the first mate and the love of her life, 925. I called him King Arthur. And I'll tell you, I was lucky to get these pictures because, especially of 925, he was kind of camera shy, and I looked all over the park for him many, many times. And when you would see him, as soon as he would see you, he would make himself scarce and go back into the trees or something. Now you can see one of the pups have joined 925 and 926, and they were such vigilant, good parents. They were constantly looking out for them. You can see them turning their heads, constantly looking all around them and protecting their young, which they did. And next up in a few seconds here, I want to return. I have just got to show you something else here, where the wolf with the Junction Pack, the day the buffalo walked in right into the middle of them, that wolf was chasing a raven, and there's more to it. There he goes right there. He chased him off to the left. They circled around, and now he comes back, and he gives up the chase. But watch carefully here. The next scene you'll see is one of my favorite of all time, and there he is jumping up as though he could catch that raven, but the raven circled around him. And here's the deal with this picture, with this scenario. Those ravens are actually playing with the wolves. They're taunting the wolves, and I find that fascinating, and I've seen it now several times. It's very amazing. And again, we see the buffalo walking right into the pack of wolves. He actually left several times and came back several times. Now, this buffalo is obviously chasing this wolf. It wasn't a real serious chase or anything, but the wolf knew that he had better get out of his way because the buffalo obviously knew what had happened to a fallen family member. He knew that somehow he processed that as the wolves being at fault, but he wanted to pay his respects, and that's the main reason he was there. This was a day of plenty for the wolves, and they all seemed to know it. They all seemed to be aware that it was a great privilege to have enough to eat, and they all took advantage of it. And as I said in the other movie, they got first, seconds, thirds, and fourths. They stuffed themselves as much as they possibly could. The only person that didn't get anything out of it, of course, was the buffalo that went down, and the relative that you can see right here. He walked back to the pack several times, and right here, he stared a black wolf down. The wolf was looking at him kind of in an aggressive posture, like, what are you doing here? The buffalo turned around and looked right at him, and that was the end of that scenario. The rest of the wolves just ignored him, and he was constantly looking and looking sad. But the end of the day in Yellowstone, as you well know, I'm sure all of you know, that some animals have to die so that others can live. But the natural world always gives us hope, resolution, and healing in the end. And I'll tell you something else. The wolves know this too. My friends, I'm glad to have you with me today, and I appreciate all your subscriptions, likes, and comments. I'll see you next time. This is Mike Holt.